Hello and welcome back to part three of End of the Road. And let's pick up where we left off. She's beating up the fools out there that thought they were going to hold her and the money. She was like, no. She done took her back to the knees of one of these guys, and then they went and tried to come at her with a rifle, and she is knocking the legs out from under the dudes and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, now listen to me. I'm tired. I've had a long day. These people, now, unless you want to deal with them, they got my son, okay? That money belongs to them, okay? Now, the person that I'm talking about is Mr. Cross. Catch that name. Let it speak to you. Let it speak to your spirit. You're crossing over. It's a crossroads. They're in a road. They're having to deal with crossing into a new thing. And the guy that's blocking and causing all this trouble's name is what? Mr. Cross. Okay. So they're like, she's like, you want to deal with him? Do you want to deal with him? If you want to deal with him, I leave the money with you. And the second that she said Cross, they looked at it's like, put all the money back in the bag and hand her that money. We don't want none of that smoke. Give it back to her. Give her back everything and everything she needs in order for her to go. Get out of here. We don't want the smoke. They left. They let her go. So she riding back, only to find out that her family has already left with the cop, the sheriff, and he's taking them back to a safe house. He's like, come on, let me take you back to the safe house. And took him back to the safe house. They get back to the house, and here comes his wonderful, bubbly wife. Hey, how you doing, baby? Da-da-da-da-da. He's like, your parents home, blah, 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 blah. And they're looking at each other like, oh, look at this cute little old couple. Don't think old means right. Okay? I know a 65-year-old woman. She was full of demons. Okay? That's the one that bucked up against me. Okay? Full of demons. They're like, oh, you want to come in the house and eat some food and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, we just ate. We good. And then they're like, okay, you ready? And they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. And it's like, oh. And I'm sure he in there. I hope that he all right. He and they didn't even catch it. They were like, he who? He went right over to the trunk to the car, opened it up. Little boy was in there the whole daggone time. Same car that they rode to get to the house. And they jump back. They're like, oh no. It's like, and here she come back with a rifle, and he's like, get in the house. They're like, oh Lord. So she Queen Latifah's character gets to the diner, thinking that they still at the diner, waiting for her because the daughter had left a message saying, we're at the diner, come meet us here. She rushes in to get there, and they not there, only to get a text message because Brenda calls her and sends her a text, all three of them in the house, and said, we got your family, so can you bring us some money, please? And here's the two crazy old people, Mr. Cross and his wife. And they're like, oh, she gonna bring it. We got her valuable family, and it's all gonna work out. It's like, you ever see two crazy people just trying to be normal? It's like, it's a normal moment in their insanity, and it's like they still talking crazy though. It's like, this is how your enemies be. They think that they all right. This is the same way. You know how all of y'all been pissed off at the counterfeit? The counterfeit think they all right. The counterfeit thinks they're more than justified to be doing what they're doing. More than justified. Counterfeit opportunity, counterfeit situation, counterfeit person, counterfeit. They think they're more than justified to do what they do. They see nothing wrong with it because of the way that they were raised, operated. Just like you are with God, they were operated and reared and groomed to be that demented. So to them, it ain't nothing wrong with what they're doing, okay? So they sitting there, what the heck are we gonna do? We gonna wait for them to come down here and kill us? And Ludacris's character, he's like, no, we gonna get out of here. So he said, I need you to bust the window, take something, pop the window out, put just enough pressure to pop the center of the window out. And then we gonna crawl out of here. That's what we gonna do. But did not realize that that man had dogs. Now, you gotta be smart enough to outsmart your enemy. Okay? So when the guy comes down, when the dogs are alerted, he's like, oh, you didn't realize I had alert dogs. And they're all standing there and they're like, The kids are all curled up by the couch, and he's standing there. He's like, well, you wanted to do this, that, and the other. And Ludacris is taunting him. David. Ludacris is taunting the man, and he gets him to come towards him. And the guy comes to stand directly in front of him. He's like, now, gotcha. And he's like, got me? What do you... He had set up a bucket of bleach that the second that the guy got into the spot he needed him to get into, the kids were sitting on the couch because they had to pull the cord that was going to release the bleach. And it all poured down on his head. And they knocked him out. Well, not knocked him out, but moved him out of the way so they could run upstairs and get out of there. And the wife's in there, and they up there fighting, and little boy takes the gun. David is not afraid to use his few small stones. I'm gonna take you out. He takes and shoots the gun. He's like, and she's like, well, you're not gonna. He's like, oh, and the sister's like, no, he's not going to shoot you. She takes the gun from, no, give me the gun. No, but I'm gonna shoot you. She went and shot the woman. And the uncle, he gets stabbed by some type of knife when they were trying to run out by the woman. But they end up knocking her down and getting out of there and end up outside. And by the time they end up outside, they trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to go? And the daughter had her phone. She's at the end of the driveway. She's like, where in the world is mom at? And she calls. She's like, Mom, where you at? She's like, I'm nearby you, but I done struck the car, got messed up, because this always happens. It's like, car got messed up. I'm walking to you. Where you at? It's like, I hear you. Where are you? And she ends up, it's like, she walks up from the opposite side of the driveway. And it's like, no, you don't understand. The guy who was supposed to be the sheriff, he's Mr. Cross. She's like, what? And it's like, yeah, they in there. We done blinded him with bleach, and the wife in there, but now they done been locked in the cellar, because they locked the wife in the cellar with him. But they trying to get out. And it's like, well, we need to figure out what to do. And the mother's still sitting up there like, it's like, we need to take the money and book it. And they're like, that's what the uncle's saying. It's like, no. Leave the bag of money. Let's get out of here. He's like, but that money can help us. It's like, the devil do you. It's like, this is a situation I don't need to be thinking. The devil's on one side, the angel on the other. You're like, no, I got to do what's right for God. And she leaves the money, and he said, okay, I'm going to put it in a place that they ain't hardly going to miss it. So he drops it directly in the middle of the driveway. And they book it to get out there to try to find the car. To get back to the car, come to find out there's some type of spark plug or something was misjointed. So he ended up, she goes and checks the car. The daughter tries to turn it on. It didn't work. The uncle goes in and he rearranges some cords, and finally they get the engine to start. They're cheering. By this point, Cross and his wife have gotten out. The wife's in the car riding behind Cross while he's walking on foot. My thing is this: evidently that bleach didn't do too bad, because he's still able to see footprints in dirt and to see tracks. So I'm like, evidently that wasn't that bad. And when they start screaming, that's when he knew exactly which direction to go and get them. So they're in the car and they see their car coming up behind them. It's like, oh no. So this is a big chase scene. Because the enemy, when you get close to your victory, close to your breakthrough, he come up behind you real fast, trying to drag you back and drag you back down. And they on their tail. And she ended up having, I don't know where she got the gun from, but she started shooting using her old skills from what her daddy had taught her, and started shooting and bust out their window, bust out the lights on the front of their car so they couldn't barely see them. And so they ended up chasing them, but they lost them for a momentary amount of time. Sometimes the enemy will get that close to you. You're almost out of your situation. You're almost completely done with it. And you think that it's over. This is when you have the David moment. They done stole all of our family. They done did everything because they came up from back around the other way. And you're like, what? So you think that you done got away from them, and you're this close to the exit, the crossover point. You're like, okay, we're finally here. It's almost over. And then they come up again. Pissed off. I gotta block you up again. And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to knock you out, because I'm gonna have to take you down. Goliath's gonna have to die today. So she ends up slipping out the car when they were still trying to drive, and she had lost the gun, and then she got it back, but she slipped when he jerked the car. So she's left out there, and they drove off a little bit, but I've hid the car in a dark place. They don't have the lights on, but the guy and his wife, they're directly in front of them. And she's like, look, you got your money, let us go. And he's like, I can't let you go, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, then fine, just take me. And they're like, and they're debating all this kind of stuff. And when they come to do their last move, they play chicken with her as if they were going to hit her. And when they come at her, she goes from, she pulls out a flare gun and shoots directly into their vehicle, causing the gun that he had to go off and shoot him, and they rammed the car into a tree. Sometime you have to take that moment that this is your one shot. You have to, 1, set the enemy up, 2, deceive them, 3, get them in a place where they feel comfortable that you are at a point that you are vulnerable enough that they let their guard down and you take them out. It's that last hit. And you make this blow, because when you sit there and a hit and a miss is, you waste a lot of energy more than a direct, acute, strategic final blow. It's that final blow. She hit that guy, that flare gun went off, his gun went off, and they rammed the car into a tree. The enemy will take themselves out. 2 Chronicles 20:20. The worshipers went in first, and the enemy started cutting each other's throats. So they now are at chill mode, and they're like, just get in the car, let's go, because I don't want to go back, I don't want to see nothing, I'm just done, I'm over it, it's a done deal. We done, let's get out of here, let's drive straight to Arizona, let's get to where we're trying to go. And this is how we feel like a lot of us are kind of here. We're at that point. Can we just cross over so we can be done with this season? Because I'm so over this situation, because it's been too much, it's been too long, it's too Okay? I'm over it. So because we're so too with the scenario, we kind of in that phase of let's just get straight there, and that's where a lot of us have been. It's like we see the finish line, we hear the fireworks, we see that can we just run over that finish line? And a lot of us have been in that phase. Let's just run the car full speed ahead over this finish line, and God's like, you can't move that fast just yet. So they go to the diner for breakfast the next morning, and they order all their breakfasts and everything. And Uncle's like, don't worry, sis, I got this. And she's like, what you got? What you talking about? You got this. What money you got? He's like, well. And he pulls out 6 bricks of money. Now, this is 6 bricks of money. Each one had $100 on top of it. So if it's a brick of money, I don't know how much comes in a stack, but he had at least 6 to 8 bricks of it. So that's anywhere from, it's at least maybe possibly $100,000-$200,000, maybe. Yeah. So they gonna be good for a minute. They'll be able to pay off their debts and everything. And he's like, come on, let me pray for it. And she's like, we gotta give them. He said, like, let me talk to you Christian people for a moment here. Sometimes the Lord will bless you. And I heard a pastor speak this. Sometimes the Lord will bless you that the scenario occurs that something will occur that money is put into your hands. When the money is cleared by the Lord, meaning there ain't nobody to give this money back to. Who you gonna give it back to? Pastor said he had gotten out his car one time and found $100 bill. Couldn't see nobody that it was supposed to go to. He took that money and he went. He sold his seed off of it and he kept the rest of it. Who you gonna sow it to? Who you gonna give it back to? There's nobody there. This happened to me one time. I was walking. I had been praying to the Lord about finances. I was in a season. I was in a drought. Didn't have no money nowhere. I had just been sitting in prayer, reading my word on a Sunday in the Whole Foods. I was walking to go back to the train station at night. And when I tell you, I happened to be walking past close to the wall nearby where the store lights were on. And I happened to see outside of one of the store lights, it was paper on the ground. I was like, oh, this is some paper. And I almost ignored it until I was walking and I got close to it. And I was like, that's money. And I'm like, oh, it must be $5 because I saw 5 individual bills. I'm like, it must be $5 because ain't nobody gonna leave no real money laying out like that. And I tell you, I bent down to pick that up. It was 5 $20 bills. Now, if anybody of y'all have ever heard me tell the story of the day that I gave 5 homeless people $20 a piece because I found them in it was a little cavern that they were staying in, and I was like, y'all all homeless? I gave them my clothes and I gave them $100. Last night I was thinking about this and I said, that's why I got that $100, because this was a time I needed that $100 back, and God gave it back to me. He gave me that $100 that day, because when I looked up, there was nobody, nowhere that money could have come from. That money was just laying there, and it was right there for me to find. I took that money the first thing the next morning. I sold my seed off of it. I actually ended up sowing 2 seeds. I think I sold half the money into my church. But the rest, there were things that I needed, just day-to-day needs, traveling expenses, food expenses, all of this. I had no money. And the Lord blessed me. And I sold what I needed to sow out of it, and I took care of the rest. They were all sitting there And she's like, we gotta give this. He's like, who we giving it back to? Ain't nobody to give it back to. The guy that it was supposed to go back to, he's dead now. Who are you giving? He's like, I don't know who we gotta get. We gotta be. And he's like, who we giving it back to? Who we giving it back to? And she's like, and the rest of them, they're like, Mom, sometimes the Lord bless you. And she's like, all right. They sit there, and my thing is this: y'all black in a white country with a whole bunch of white people that y'all already know they racist. Why you got stacks of money that you gonna throw it out on the table for people to see? I'm like, what in the world going on here with y'all? Common sense. Anyway, yeah, but they took their money, they paid for their breakfast, and they went on to go see their grandma. Because you crossed over. And when you cross over, you are blessed financially for all the stuff and the toil in which you had to suffer to get there. Isaiah 61, 7 and 8. Double for all your trouble. That is the film. I hope it blessed you. Until next time. Bye-bye.